Ladies and gentlemen, we're back in action. I've missed you the last couple weeks, had some technical difficulties, and then after No Ring North's last show, was without a voice for a few days. With that said, welcome to the PD Skillz Show. This week, we have the one and only high-risk hero, and not the high you're used to on this show, Rip Impact.
Thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here.
I'm glad to finally get you on here. It's been a long time. I mean, you know, we first met a long time ago, but the habit of wrestling is everything's so busy on show days. You don't usually, especially you're always setting up your ring there that you don't always have time to chat.
No, you're right. I'm always doing something. If I'm not focused on my own matches, I'm focused on setting up the ring or like my students' matches or just keeping busy. So fortunately, I don't always have the time to talk at the show, but I wanted to make time today. I'm glad we're finally able to do this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to figure out exactly which year it was that I met you and we worked with PWX. I was going through the match things and I just got a new phone and I'm going through my screenshots and I'm like, some didn't transfer through because I had the cage match. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was probably about 2000. I want to say like 2006, maybe.
I was gonna say, I thought it might have been like somewhere between 2005, 6, 7, 8 at the latest. But I think
8 at the very latest, based on my sporadic breaks from the business.
2006 seems pretty accurate. It could have been 2005 or before. I mean, I started really in 2003, 2004, kind of that era there. Really going, but like I was wrestling that scene and doing those shows down there.
And did you start in like UWA Hardcore?
So UWA Hardcore was my big break. I started with UWA Hardcore October 2004.
Okay.
So 17 years ago. And UWA Hardcore was the company that gave me my big break. But I had been wrestling at that point for a full year at least of shows.
Yeah, because you were the first UWA Hardcore guy I had faced. So I like that's one of the things I remember. I'm like, I knew you were there. I just didn't know if that's where you had started but like you're saying that was your first break.
So that means we definitely would have wrestled probably 2006, probably 2005, 6. I've been there for a little while. I'll have to find photos. I can probably judge by my gear what era it was, or I have results somewhere.
It was white X with the green and yellow introduction.
Okay, so that would have been 2006 or later. So it would have been if it's the white X with the
I'm a gear guy. That's one thing everybody just says about me. Like when I watch pay-per-views with them, I'm a gear guy. Like I'll sit there and I'll go like, this guy's not winning a title based on his gear. And I'm like,
right? WrestleMania, Seth Rollins has that new white gear. He's winning the title or whatever the case is, right?
Yeah.
You can tell it's a new gear and they're winning it for sure.
And then there's times where I'm like, when it's one of the guys I like and they come out in gear that I don't like, I'm like, fuck, they're going to win the title in this horseshit gear.
Right?
Like Shawn Michaels in the Elimination Chamber.
And that's something exciting for me. I actually just got new gear. I haven't had new gear for a while.
And
so
that's the purple and yellow?
Yeah, purple and yellow.
I love that look on you, bro. It's good. I like the change up. It's a good look.
So I think I was one of the first to really do that kind of look around here in Ontario. Like almost the super crazy feel where it's like the luchador long tights and like the top, not like the low strap singlet top, but like the full top.
Yeah. You're still the only person to do it out of non-necessity.
Yeah, I like doing the singlets or whatever.
I've considered it a couple times, but actually lately I've even stopped wearing a singlet underneath. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, I can just wrestle. Right? Don't worry about that stuff and just wrestle. But no, that gear that I wrestled you in, I probably had some of my most matches in that gear. It's the black stuff, the yellow and the green, the white X in the middle. Yeah. That gear's infamous and people kind of know me for that gear. I even started wearing it again recently until I got my new gear. But I'm a big gear guy as well. I just haven't had new stuff for a while because I was cycling through old stuff and like I just I wanted to find what was right. So I went tights for a while without the top. But I like the tights and the top. It's just something different. So that's kind of my look for what I do there. So it's cool. Yeah. It's finally exciting to have new gear, which is fun. And it's just cool to have that now.
No, I like it. It's like I said, it's a good look. It's a different look. Like it's a complete change in color scheme and everything. Yeah. And I liked it because it was like new gear and I got to see you do a heel turn. So I was like, this is nice because it's like new Rip.
It's a whole new kind of take and a new Rip for me because, you know, I mean, in the last couple of years, I haven't gotten a chance to do anything new. Like I've been wrestling. I've been very fortunate to travel across Canada and the United States and Mexico. I've wrestled a lot of top talent, and I've wrestled basically everyone locally at some point or another.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like a guy that people have a match with. It just happens. Like I'm on a lot of shows, and it happens. And I can't even count how many people I've wrestled in their first match or their first 5 matches. People put me in.
Well, I mean, and you're a trainer, right? So do you wrestle a lot of your students early on in their
I
careers?
wrestle a lot of students early on too. I've wrestled a lot of other students from different schools and just a lot of new guys and experienced guys too. But it doesn't happen often that I get some new stuff. So lately, just pre-pandemic, I got to turn heel for one company, which was awesome because it was a whole different. I've done heel work before, like in the States or like on tour in the middle of nowhere. But like Ontario wise, I haven't really got to do much. I had like a very short run where I did a heel turn back in Death Proof back in like 2010 or whatever year that was. But then I was very busy touring and traveling, so I didn't get the chance to do anything. So it's kind of forgotten, other than like the promo I did the one night where I turned heel. But it's exciting.
But Death Proof's a great place for you to be a heel. Like that's even like when someone had discussed like I just won the No Ring North's hybrid championship. And they were like, who's going to literally take this from PD Skillz? And I'm like, I could tell you one person that has a heel would be great to take this from PD Skillz. Rip Impact.
I see something on that belt and what's right there, that logo on that belt, and what we represent. And you hinted at it before, you know what I mean, at the introduction of the podcast. We'll definitely touch on that, you know what I mean? It's not the same kind of high, with the high risk hero, the high flyer. And
exactly.
A different kind of high. And you know what I mean? I live that straight edge lifestyle, so I don't get that kind of high, but you're right. It's just fun.
And that's why I was like, Rip would be the natural heel to that. Like, how mad would people be? Like, a straight edge guy has got like, the championship.
For sure. Well, maybe we'll run that. But no, it's been pretty cool doing heel runs now, turning heel at HWE, holding the HWE championship there, and now turning heel at PWO in Burlington recently. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I changing up my look a little bit with the new gear. I got myself a ring jacket I wear now. And
I haven't seen the ring jacket because I've only seen like match footage.
Yeah. So
I didn't even see it like at Did you have the ring jacket at PWO?
I can't remember. I don't know if I ended up wearing it or not because I just turned heel that day. Like, I didn't know ahead of time on PWO I was turning heel that day or not. It was kind of like a decision made on the day because of circumstances. Yeah. So,
and then that decision got crazy on how you guys had to pull it off. So I mean, kudos to you guys.
So it was pretty wild and jumping into the finals with Justin and having that match and stuff. But I turned heel recently at HWE, and it was fun there because they just had their comeback show about a month ago, and they have another show this weekend I'm doing.
Were you heel when you won the championship?
So I turned heel when I won the championship. So
okay, because I saw the footage, like you and was it all your students celebrating in there with you?
Yeah, so that was NSW. So NSW.
Okay.
Recently, we had a fun angle there. We got all my students there and involved, and I'm the babyface there. So that's a hometown show in Hamilton. But
okay.
NSW, we had all my students in there, and we actually had one of another guy in there, Stratosphere, who was wearing like an HPW hoodie. He was dressed up as one of my students, but he's a super kick guy. And basically we did the whole celebrating, but he's actually the #1 contender for NSW. So as soon as I won the NSW title from Del Bruno, who had it for almost 2 years, as soon as I won it, we had the big celebration with all my students in the ring. And then Stratosphere happened to be one of the students. He had like an HPW hoodie and a mask on, so
that was instant. That wasn't
instantly. He cashed in right away, kind of like a Money in the Bank gimmick. And then
I'd only seen those moments in like that, like montage. So I'm like, is this from show to show? I'm like,
it was instant. So I had a long feud with Hacker Scotty O'Shea or Anti-Hero SOS. I had a feud with him for NSW for the last year or two, and then it turned into a feud with Del Bruno, and then it ended up with me finally winning the title, only to lose it 5 minutes later to Stratosphere, who I thought was one of my students because he was dressed up, turned on me, cashed in, and then won the championship. So I'm in a program now with Stratosphere, chasing after that championship. But the HWE championship, I I've been holding that since the week before the pandemic, March 8th, 2020. I won that. And then the week later, the world shut down.
Yeah.
And people are kind of joking because that show on March 8th, when I won the HPW championship, I won that championship by turning heel. It was another tournament. I went to the finals, the very end of the tournament, big low blow, stole the win, cut a whole promo, just basically demanding respect. People saying I'm overlooked. Everyone's excited about the new shiny toys, all my students, when they should be kind of giving me my respect.
Yeah.
And I had fun with that, which was a lot of fun. And kind of doing that heel run there now. So I won that. And then a week later, the world shut down and we stopped doing shows. But I have a lot of fun being a heel there. And just recently, as their last show and the next show, for the first time in 17 years, I have new music as well, new theme music. Because I've had this iconic theme song for 17 years.
So I have a question with all these heel turns. If this seems to be a trend with you in places. So I do Instagram lives throughout the week, just burner ones that we don't save. We get rid of them because people get banned, all that good stuff. And I heard a rumor, and I'm hoping that this rumor can be proven true during the heel Rip Impact era.
Okay.
Is it true that you've been holding back and hiding the ability to probably have the best beard in the business?
That's a great question. That's a great question. That rumor probably can be true. I mean, I don't know how well you can see right now. I just got home from training, but this is a scruff. And this is like a day or two ago. I shaved maybe 2 days ago at most.
Because that was the word on Instagram Live. The Rip Impact could probably grow the best beard in the business, but his baby face is a life choice.
And this grew in pretty thick already as a scruff. If I leave it, I have to shave 2-3 times a week. So if I leave this, I give it like a month, 2 months, it will come in thick. You know what I mean? I have the Italian background, it will come in thick. And it can probably grow pretty good. But honestly, I've never grown that beard in my life.
I feel like it would complete the heel look and like it would blow people's minds. Like, cause I mean, you've been around forever, literally. Like, it's what, 18 years?
Yeah, 18, 19 years almost now.
Yeah.
Because
I know you started slightly before. I think you started in what year? 2003?
2003.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought you started a year before me. So yeah, like 18, almost 19 years. Like, that's crazy. Like,
yeah, and I've had a similar look with different gears and stuff, always a long hair and different stuff, but never a beard. You know what I mean? Never a beard. So now that I'm heel and getting more and more heel runs and more and more heel promotions, there's a chance I might grow it out. We'll see. And I don't know if it'll be the best beard in Ontario. There's a couple of good beards out there, but I think I can give people the run for the money. And
I just chopped mine off like after the last show. I was like, I'm done till the new year. It's time to chop it out, get a bunch of the grays out, and start afresh.
Nice.
So what year did you start? Like, what year did you open your school in?
So that's a great question. I started the Hamilton Pro Wrestling School in 2016. So I've been at the same location running the school steady now for over 5 years. But before that, I had my hand in other schools. I mean, there was a couple of wrestling schools in Hamilton. The school that I started at, or one of the schools I started at, was Living Legends Wrestling. And that's where, you know what I mean, a lot of other guys like myself and Del Bruno.
You know what? Now that you say that, it, like right away is like LLW. Why didn't I'm like, that's where it was. Okay.
Yeah, we probably met even there. But yeah, myself, Del Bruno, Scotty O'Shea, even Ethan Page and Josh Alexander to some extent, you know what I mean? They all got their kind of start there at that school. Justin Sane and 4 other guys started at the school there. But shortly thereafter, like that school was running for a couple of years. I started training there when I was 16. But then a couple of years of training there, I was kind of brought in as like the assistant trainer. I was already training people. So I had like a helping hand in like training Justin Sane and helping hand in training like Del Bruno and those guys. So I'd been around for a couple of years before them. But when that school finally shut down, another guy took over and he was running the school for a little while. And I was basically the coach and the trainer, and he ran the business side of it. And that would go on tours, so it was hard to kind of maintain. He wasn't the best businessman. But then I gave myself a busy run of a lot of tours and traveling. to like the late 2000s and 2010, 11, 12, 13. But basically around 2014, 15, I was really thinking, I bought my house. I was thinking like, what do I want to do? What's my next step? I wanted to open up my own wrestling school like myself. I wanted to be like the trainer, the coach. I wanted to be the owner, the businessman. I did a lot of research, found the right location, and then I opened up September 2016. So about almost 5.5 years ago now.
That's crazy. So, and going strong since.
Trained a lot of students in that time. A lot of people have come and gone. A lot of people have stuck with it. I've had a lot of students debut and wrestle on a lot of events. And it's something.
Do you have any students that stick around as like an assistant or a coach to you?
I have a couple now. I have a couple students now that will help me out with the beginners classes a little bit here and there. They've been wrestling for a few years and they help out, but I'm still a very hands-on coach. I'm a very, I want to say not picky, but particular. I coach a certain way. I have a style. It's very really positive and encouraging and reinforcing. And I'm very, just a very hands-on coach. Like I'm in there 3, 4, 5 days a week with the students, and like, some coaches are backing off a little bit. I'm still fairly young in this game. I'm not afraid to roll around. I'm not afraid to bump. Yeah, I mean, my bump card maybe has a couple extra extensions on it than other people's bump cards. I think I got a lot of longevity still, and training keeps me going. And even through this pandemic, I was able to still train on my own, to have my own place.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, even if things were closed down, you could at least, it's your place, you can go privately and do your thing.
Yeah, so like I was very lucky like that, in the sense of when the world kind of shut down, a lot of things were closing up. A lot of guys weren't in the ring for a long time, but I mean, I was constantly in the ring, even with injuries in the past. In the last 19 years, there hasn't been a time, I thought about this the other day, there hasn't been a time in the last 19 years where I've gone more than 2 weeks without being in a ring. That's the longest gap I've had, is 2 weeks. Yeah, I went on honeymoon, I went on a trip, I went on different times. I would go to the ring before or after. Even with injuries, I would show up again in the ring and do whatever I can and just watch and soak it in and learn. I've just constantly been in the ring at all times, one way or another.
Yeah. I would just whip out like a 10-foot like section of padding.
Yeah, I just roll around. Yeah, that's a great idea too. Kind of keep
just like to keep moving.
Definitely. Absolutely.
I mean, and it's a lighter bump, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, for sure. No, I've been lucky. I opened up this school 2016 September, and then 1 year later we ran our first show, which was kind of my plan. I wanted to run the school for 1 full year and then start doing shows to showcase the students.
And that's, you do it, the HPW shows are exclusively your students.
Yes, the HPW student shows are exclusively students. And
like they seem to like, I've gotten to see footage from some of them. Like they seem to do well. Like it's good. You guys get a lot of support.
Not just small showcases. We get a couple hundred fans, and they're a very rowdy, loud crowd. A real good mix. It's about, I'd say about 25 to 30% of like those loyal diehard fans that go to like every show around here.
Yeah,
and the other 60 or 70% are HPW fans. They don't really travel to other companies. They're friends and family or co-workers.
Yeah, and that's what's good too, is because like early in your career too, like, and especially when it's in your home area, you got a lot of support like that. And your show is exclusively guys that are like that. So it's cool. It's almost like a community, like cornerstone to an extent. Absolutely. Like, have you guys now, being that you guys, being Hamilton, pro wrestling, and it being a lot of the local talent, do you guys do a lot of stuff with like anything local, like the community and such?
Yeah, definitely. So being right in Hamilton and having the wrestling school now for several years and running shows for a few years now, every December we pair up with the Good Shepherd in the community, and we do a toy drive and a food drive. We pair up with them, and we do a lot of community involvement, and we get a food drive going and a toy drive going. We run, like I said, several shows a year, and then we partner up and we work with other promotions. So my students will have their debut at HPW here in Hamilton. They'll wrestle some shows, they'll get some kind of weight behind what they're doing and going. And then I'm actively working with them to help them network and get into sister promotions. If that's MCW in Brantford or PWO in Burlington, You know, I mean,
But that's great when people network like that. That's always good to see.
Get booked, and I'm very proud and excited to see like a lot of my students are out there actively wrestling on shows.
They're everywhere.
They are. Thank you.
I know, I love seeing it. I'm like, that's a rip guy. That's a rip guy.
Yeah, it's awesome. They're right. You're right. And then it's a wide mix too. I have guys doing like Tyler Arrow doing the No Ring North. You know what I mean? Even Travis Moore and you know what I mean?
Tyler Arrow is a diverse motherfucker.
Super diverse. To do everything. High flying. He can technical wrestle. He does the crazy hardcore, the No Ring North stuff. He does everything. And then I got other guys doing that. We are more entertainment or technical based, like Clay Wilson or Rock Harbor, who doesn't start to branch out more, and other guys like Jax Williams or Robbie Cosmos, they're a tag team, Mike Forte, Travis Moore. I mean, there's so many of them out there, so it's awesome. Corey Stone, BMD, like it's awesome.
I'm looking forward to the HWE matchup between Moore and Grant there.
Yeah, definitely. Those are two of my guys, so it's very cool to see.
Yeah, no, it should be good. Like I don't think I've seen very many cruiserweight titles in Ontario.
I don't think there's many, man. I don't think there's many. I still hold the UWF Cruiserweight Championship. I think I won it in Chatham, Ontario, is Shooter Sean and Danger Boy Nate's promotion.
Yeah, I know that's where I was supposed to debut because I was training with Shooter Sean Brown when I first started.
I mentioned that because I thought you were originally from that you know, you're down in the Windsor Chatham neighborhood. So I mean, I was wrestling in 2003, 4, 5. I won some kind of cruiserweight title. I think I won it from is it Mikey Maddox? He wrestled a little while back. I saw him. He had like the zebra pants or the furry boots or something like that.
Oh, Matrox?
Matrox, yeah.
Yeah, Matrox from Windsor, yeah.
Yeah, he was one of those guys down that way, and a handful of other guys. But you're right, there's not many cruiserweight promotions or cruiserweight championships in a lot of promotions.
And that'll be a good one. Like I love watching both those guys go. Like especially like watching Grant go from doing the podcast to the wrestling and all that.
Yeah,
and, you know, he's got a set formula in his promos and stuff. So you know he does good at hyping the matches up, and like. You know, just watching Travis go out there, like that dude's got so much heart and like such Travis, he's so high impact. Like it's.
I agree. Travis has that high intensity, that energy, that something to prove attitude. I legitimately think, and it's a cool little claim, Travis Moore might be the smallest guy in Ontario in wrestling, but the kid has so much heart. As cliche as that is, he's got something to prove, and he's strong, and he's dedicated, and he's out there wrestling almost every weekend, keeping busy. And Matt Grant, he's also a smaller guy, but he's the opposite end of it, where you know what I mean, his wrestling will speak for itself, but he's a promo guy coming from the podcast world and then being a referee, and he's at that journey, like you mentioned, podcast to referee. I mean, the announcing, the commentating. He's done a little bit of everything. Now he's finding his niche and he's wrestling, and he's very comfortable with his promos. He's very confident. And he's also very good at social media and branding himself, and like the graphic work that you like do. You guys are both
absolutely. I was honored when he reached out to me to do something for him, because I'm like, man, this guy does stuff himself. Like, but awesome. Like,
yeah, you're doing it. But man, you do some great work. You've done some graphic work for a couple of my students now, for t-shirts, logos, and everything I've seen you do. I was like, oh shit, I never knew you did that. It's like,
I try to take good care of everybody, make it fucking reasonable
stuff.
And then it ends up being Gimmick Apparel usually ends up printing the stuff I design. Yeah,
they print a fair bit of stuff for the guys locally, and they made a handful of my students' gear as well. So it's cool. Good relationship there.
Who'd you go to for your new gear?
I actually got my new gear from Greg Gibson at Gimmick Apparel as well.
Oh, there you go.
He came up with some ideas and designs, went back and forth a little bit. I said, take your time. I want quality. I want no rush. You know what I mean? I'll keep wrestling on my old stuff as long as I need to, but I want something solid and good. He came up with some ideas and he made my work, which was great. He's done gear for a handful of my students. And then
I like the stuff he does for Arrow. The newest ones, the red with the like cheetah print in them.
On the gear for Tyler Arrow. Tyler Arrow, I think, is addicted to wrestling gear.
He is.
And he loves it. He's got so many pairs now.
He's went through more pairs of gear during the pandemic than I have my entire wrestling career. I think I've had, if I count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ever.
Yes, exactly. I think I'm about, in my entire wrestling career, probably 7. I probably count about 7 or 8 at most. But the man has, I think, in the pandemic, in the last little while, last year or so, probably at least 6 or 7 pairs of gear, new pairs of gear. Because he's got a couple he hasn't even worn yet. He's got another set he hasn't even worn yet. He had one pair that he wore one time, hasn't worn them since. He's got just so many. It's insane.
Forte was like that too, because he got the 2 sets of gear made at the same time, and he had one that he was like keeping like crispy, and he's like, and he's showing me. I'm like, oh, I like your new gear. He's like, oh, you got to see this though, and he like opens it up, and it's like, oh,
like a baggy. It's all protected. It's all like shining light on it for sure. And he's got some really cool gear as well. And I like his because it's a similar design all the time, but he like inverts the colors. So
yeah, he's got it like he's got a look.
I'll be like black, white, and red, and he'll just like switch the colors of where they're located. So he's got a look for sure. He's got a ton of talent. You know what I mean? That guy has got a ton of talent, and I'm very proud of all of them.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good. Now, would you like with you, like with your students, obviously, like we've seen at like NSW, like them celebrating in the ring. Have you guys ever done like a full on like invasion like gimmick?
Yeah, so we haven't done the full invasion yet, but I mean, it's been kind of pushed into NSW a little bit. So what happened basically was Del Bruno was wrestling a handful of my students. Del Bruno wrestled Johnny DeLuca, who's one of my students, who he had a great match, one of DeLuca's best matches. He had a match with Forte. He went through a few of my guys until ultimately wrestling me. So we kind of told that story about how Alex and I came training together and came up on a similar scene and stuff like that, about how I was going through all my guys. So the story was, at the end of our match, I had the whole match won, and Alex, the champion at the time, was going to leave. And then as he went to leave, he goes back to the curtain. He just starts backtracking out, and that's when all my students came out saying, "Hey, you're not going anywhere." Almost turning into like an impromptu handicap match to get him, not a handicap match, a lumberjack match.
Yeah, to get him back in there.
Back in the ring, and ultimately leading to the back and forth into the finish. So we haven't done an invasion there. We have had a couple, one student recently, Jax Williams, he's got a bright future, young guy, athletic. He's doing some stuff with NSW, MCW, and a few other promotions on top of HPW. He recently defected from the HPW group and joined up with Stratosphere. So he's kind of with Stratosphere now, and he's turned on me. So not so much an invasion right now, but there is definitely a working relationship and a crossover, and a couple of the students, maybe defecting and jumping over there. So we've done that a little bit, and then we've worked with a couple other promotions, HWE obviously, and MCW, but we have a working relationship with HW where they use a handful of the HPW guys, not an invasion angle, but more so just as like a back and forth relationship. And now with HWE running out of Battle Arts, there's a good crossover between HWE or HPW guys and Battle Arts guys.
Yeah, Don Koloff is almost becoming like the Ontario Wrestling Center.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of companies.
Like, there's HWE runs out of there.
And
then obviously Battle Arts, and then Destiny.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's cool.
Yeah, it's become like a popular venue. It's a great venue. Like, it looks great recorded. Like, it comes off good. Absolutely. The way they can section that place off. Like, because I'd seen it in show mode before I'd seen it the other way. And then once the drapes came back, I'm like, really? That's the area? I'm like, never would have known. Yeah, it transforms very well. Transforms very well for a live audience feel and for on video, like especially on video. Yeah. Now, with wrestling, obviously, being back in full force, hopefully for keeps. You got any big personal goals coming up for 2022? Definitely. I've been lucky to win a couple of championships and stuff like that lately, which is awesome. I'm always excited to work for new promotions. 2022, though, the main thing I want to kind of do a little bit more is I want to travel again a little bit. I did a lot of traveling. Yep. In the last couple of years, but slowed down a little bit because, one, the pandemic, and two, because I was focused on my wrestling school. I may bring in an extra hand or two to help me run the school a little bit. I might do a few more tours and travel a little bit more and do a little bit of that. So those are some goals for wrestling for myself.
Other goals I have are just to get my students out there, get eyes on them, get them wrestling as much as they can, and get them out to some bigger and better promotions and getting more eyes on them.
Now, with speaking of your students, is there anybody in the school right now that like you like hasn't wrestled a match yet that we want to look out for once
Absolutely.
they get that green light?
Definitely. There's a couple. I have a couple, I have a couple programs between like a beginner/intermediate program and like more of my advanced program, which is the guys you see on the shows, like the Evan Greenaway and the Mike Forte and the Tyler Arrow. Those are the guys busy doing shows. There are definitely guys that are out there now just doing HPW in a couple matches. I said like Jax Williams and Robbie Cosmos, they're a tag team. You should keep your eyes on them. They're very similar to like Tyler Arrow and Forte. They're air strike, they're high flyers, but they're a good mix of power.
Okay.
Evan Greenaway, you've seen around. Travis Moore, you've seen around. A lot of those guys. But we have a couple others that are branching out. Couple of guys that haven't made their green light yet. We just have a kid named Josh. He's a bigger kid, but he's very agile. And
I love big agile dudes.
Yeah, he's going to be debuting in the next couple of months. And he'll be having his. And then I'll be having a female talent, which I'm very excited about, to debut hopefully next week at my show. If not this one, it'll be the next one.
Very nice.
I'm very excited about for her because that's the one thing we've lacked a little bit over the years of running the school and producing a lot of students. I haven't had that many female students. I haven't had many women come in and train with me. I've had a handful of them. I've had a lot of people drop in. Like, I'm having Alexi Nicole drop in or Jody Threat drop in.
But not as a full-time student.
I've had Jesse Mack drop in. I've had a lot of women established already drop in, get some training with me and get sharp again for matches and shows. But I've only had a handful of new students that I've got to train from the ground up as far as female talents. And I'm excited to have a couple more. I have a couple more now in my beginner program and other classes that will be running in a few more months or in a little while, maybe summer next year. But I have one right now who's got all the right tools. She's in great shape. She has a good look. She's got a good attitude. She's putting the time in the ring. She just gets wrestling, and she's going to be debuting soon. So she's one to keep the eye on, because I think once she gets out there and people see what she's capable of, I think she's going to probably pretty quickly explode onto the scene and pick up a lot of bookings.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Like, it's good that they're, consistently new and fresh faces coming out of the school.
Absolutely.
Now, for the listeners and viewers at home, where's the best place to find Rip Impact?
So you can find me at Rip Impact on Instagram, Rip Impact on Twitter, Rip Impact on Facebook. I'm probably most active on Instagram. I'm not a huge social media guy, but I try to list my events and shows on there. My upcoming appearances. I got Barry Wrestling this Saturday coming up, Saturday, December 4th. I'm up in Barry Wrestling. Sunday, December 5th, I'm working with Tyler Turva at HWE, defending my championship. December 11th will be Hamilton Pro Wrestling, which will be my show with all my students on it. And then I have a couple more close out the year after that. And then 2022 looks just as busy. The world's opening back up, hopefully for good. We got a lot more shows coming up. I already got bookings next year, basically for the whole rest of the year. But January, February, March are very busy already with bookings basically every weekend. I always like being in Burlington for PWO. I like showing up at any other promotion, and I just like wrestling new people because that doesn't happen often. Last summer, I got to wrestle for MCW. I got to work with Tornado, like Ontario veteran El Tornado.
Fun El Tornado story. Do you know his move, the unruly drop kick?
Yes.
Named after me and my buddies, the Unrulies.
That's amazing.
Yeah, from a group of fans from Border City Wrestling when we were teenagers. Yep. We used to always sit in the same spot. They called us the Unrulies. We loved El Tornado. We were a group that loved El Tornado. There was another group that liked Tyson Dukes, and we'd always like crowd battle and all that. And then they became a tag team, and then we completely exploded.
Tornado's the best, and I'm excited because I've been told I'm going to be working with Tornado a bunch more in 2022, so I'm looking forward to it.
That's really exciting.
Kind of the one guy that escaped me over the 18, 19 years. I wrestled everyone. I mean, I wrestled the Cody Deaners and
Yeah.
Jake Harris and Dukes and all these other guys. I've wrestled the new guys, the old guys. I've wrestled the guys that've been around, Sky O'Shea, Justin Sains, all these talents. I've wrestled everyone. Been very lucky and fortunate. The one guy that got away from me up until August of this year was Tornado. So I finally got that match. He was like my.
That's awesome. No, that's one match I'd love to have before he hangs up the boots. If I can get into those circles, Tornado would be an honor.
Definitely, and that's my thing too. Is I have a bucket list of a couple matches I need to have. I'm not hanging up the boots anytime soon. I don't think Tornado will either. But I made a deal too with all my students. All my students that are branching out in wrestling. I said before I ever retire, which won't be for a while, I have to have a match with at least one match with every student.
There you go. Hey, that's a good promise to keep to them, though.
Definitely.
I mean, no one knows their work better than you, so I mean that'd be a great match all the time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Well, all right. I want to thank you so much, Rip, for getting on the show. Definitely appreciate it. For those listening at home, until next time, you can catch me at PD Skillz Show. I promise I'm going to be back a little more frequently. But again, Rip, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Until next time, that's Rip Impact. I'm PD Skillz, and see you soon. Peace out.